serve as an oral agreement that you both agree to participate in the oral history project by the...
James W. Coleman, and I agree.
Okay, well, first of all, I guess I wanted to find out how you spell your names, just to make sure, and your age, occupation.
Yes, I am. I'm sorry.
Okay, my name is James W. Coleman. Age 58. I'm employed by the San Mateo Probation Department, San Mateo County Probation Department, supervising institution divisions.
Okay. And how long have you guys been married?
25 years as of September 28th of this year will be 25 years.
Oh, that's next week. And where are you originally from?
Originally, I'm from...
I was born in the state of Meridian, the city of Meridian, state of Mississippi.
And how many children and what are their ages?
No children, no ages.
Okay. 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 That was quick. Okay. Where were you living at the time of the fire?
160 Caldecott Lane, apartment 229
Oakland,
in Oakland.
California.
And you were renting or you
Yes.
owned? You were renting. And I guess, how many times, was this a significant home in the sense that...
Oh, many times. We had lived there for 6 years because it was an extremely middle class, scenic, hills, complex. 433 units. Many people lived there were either professors or students at UC Berkeley, and it had the kind of temper and tone that made it extremely middle class and secure.
We were living there also because of the activities the complex afforded. Actually, I intended to live there because it's voice
I think
activated.
it's voice. That's what I was wondering what was going on with
Okay.
it. So, okay. So, to speak a little louder. Okay, so you were living there 6 years. Were there any special sacrifices you had to make to move there, or, you know?
I don't think so,
No.
no.
It wasn't. Okay. How did you feel about living there? You had wanted to stay there?
Well, when I came to California 29 years ago, worked as a district executive for the Boy Scouts. Most of my friends attend Taylor United Memorial Church. We find most of our activities and friends makes it more accessible to live there with the not being far from San Francisco. It kind of made it a place where we could do most of our activities. We're very active throughout the Bay Area, and this location seemed to be very ideal for us to do our activities throughout the Bay Area by living there.
How large was the place you were living in?
2 bedrooms,
2 bedroom, 2 bath.
2 bedrooms, 2 baths, large living room, dining room, and an extremely modern complex.
What did you like about living there in the apartment building or in the area? You had mentioned, the proximity.
I felt safe and secure living there. In addition, we had all of the weight equipment. You had gymnastic equipment that you could use. There was a swimming pool, the pool. And I participated in those things. You were close to the park so that you could walk. You were close to the hills. You could walk in the hills. You could ride bicycle. It just afforded you the opportunity to participate in a variety.
Are there any special places in the neighborhood you visited or any activities apart from inside the building? Parks?
I went to Lake Temescal quite a bit over there, and I also walked down. While it was a long walk, it wasn't that bad. I walked down and didn't necessarily always walk back, but I could walk down and shop. And walking to College Avenue, I did all there. Today, it's a frequent activity of Marchman. It took a special effort to it. Of course, I did do that because I didn't make any effort to try to know any shopping areas in Richmond. Oh, quite frequently I was over there, so I liked community shopping.
Okay, I guess I wanted to find out about the day of the fire and what you were both doing, whether you were at home, or how did you find out about it?
We were both home. He had not been home very long because he works at night, and he was just I guess he came in about maybe 10 o'clock, maybe, I think. I was getting dressed. I was taking a shower, getting dressed, planning to go to the 49ers game. So at the time, I heard my husband screaming at me about, we have to leave. They're saying that we need to move the cars. Hurry up, let's move the cars. Come help me move the cars. I was just stepping out of the shower.
So how did he hear about it?
He heard people outside saying, move the car, move the cars.
I was sitting in the at the kitchen nook, my bar stool, and preparing to go to bed, sleep for a few hours, and prepare for a company that we expected after the 49er game. In the meantime, I heard commotion outside and the bullhorns and so forth saying, you got to get out. And when I pulled the drapes back, I saw firemen, policemen, news reporters urging people to get out. And at that time, I went outside. I could see the smoke and the flames coming overhead. And I went back to get my wife out, and we just jumped in two of the cars and got out. My favorite 1966 Volkswagen burned. Having three cars, we were only able to get two of them out.
So was this an apartment building where you had floors? What floor?
Three levels. We were on the second level, second floor.
So what did you lose in the fire? What was very special to
Everything. We lost everything.
you? Everything.
Yes. There were so
When
many
we
special
left,
things.
I had my clothes on the bed that I had planned to wear to the game, but I was under the impression I was just helping him move the car. I didn't realize I was never ever returning. So I just threw on something, and I had on my worst shoes, my worst slacks, the worst thing I could find, because I was just going to help him move the car. I still had my hair in rollers, which is something I never do. I never go outside with my hair in rollers. So when I left the apartment, when I closed the door, and by the way, I closed the door, and then I remembered that the TV was on, and I said, well, gee, no one is in that big a hurry. They have to leave everything on. So I opened the door and went back in. I turned off the television. I even closed the windows because I didn't want to have all of my things just, ruined by the smell of smoke, which is all I thought was going to happen. So,
So you just thought it was a distant fire and that it wasn't going to affect you at all.
that's exactly what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went out the door, however, to the outside, because our apartment was on the end, and when we left our apartment door, we were right there. We could go right outside. And when I went outside, I saw the flames coming down the hill toward my building, but it still did not register I would never, ever be able to return because the firemen were there. The fire people were there. People were running and they were leaving. And my thinking was they were doing that so that they could do their job, without...
And they would put out the fire.
They would stop the fire. They would put it out. You were in a major city. There's no reason why I would think that they wouldn't put it out. And then when I went around and I got into my car, and then the next thing I noticed, my husband was running back into the building because he discovered he had not brought his driver's license with him. So because he stopped to get out, I thought, well, maybe I better get out and go get something because, we might be away from here a little bit longer than I think. So the fireman said, oh, don't worry, just go on, we'll take care of it. And I got back into the car, but I didn't really leave until I saw my husband come out and get into his car and followed him out. I went right over the freeway, kind of into the woods a little bit more. And as I was driving on the freeway, I just continued to go to San Francisco because I couldn't really think of anything else to do. Even though I was not dressed in the attire I would have preferred.
So why did you guys separate and go different ways?
We were directed to do that.
Okay.
Barbara was directed to make a right turn, which put her on Highway 24 after about a block. I was directed to go to the left turn, which took me over Highway 24 and on the other side of the complex,
Actually, over the tunnel.
over the tunnel. Yeah,
So what were you feeling? What were you? Well, you realized it was.
right.
Well, I mean, how
Well,
did you look at it when you were evacuated?
I waited on the other side, seeing the flames and everything overhead. Here again, thinking that, well, they'll stop this before it gets to our building. Our building was, there were two buildings as you enter the complex. We were in the building to the left side as you enter the complex, which was closer to facing the front of the complex. And I just assumed that they were going to, that they would be able to stop the fire before it got to my building. Unfortunately, it didn't. Then when my building went up in flames, then I had to get away from it because of the intensity of the heat and flames going overhead and so forth. So I got away from it. Of course, the total complex went up in flames.
So you were talking earlier about you're about to start mentioning some special things that you lost. I mean, some things are definitely replaceable.
Pictures are not replaceable. Heirlooms from your family are not replaceable. We had wedding gifts are not replaceable. We're unable to replace our wedding pictures. We had a beautiful wedding, and even though it was 25 years ago, I still felt that the photographer have the negatives. They still might. They just said they weren't able to locate them at this time, and it's been 2 years, and they're probably still looking. Who knows? They still may locate them. I understand photographers really never think that will happen, but you have pictures that are not replaceable. We went on a fantastic, marvelous a cruise to the Mediterranean. We had albums of that. That's totally irreplaceable. We purchased items over there that are not replaceable. My life, I felt, went up in flames. There, I can buy a furniture, but the furniture is not recognizable to me. It's stuff I'm not familiar with. So my furniture, while it's just furniture, it was mine, and it's not replaceable.
Did you have any kind of insurance? I mean,
we had minimal. Like we didn't
Didn't have top insurance.
No, and we didn't think. You never think in terms of that kind of thing taking place in an apartment setting. You're living in a major metropolitan area. Fire people are all over the place. So fire has never been, has never entered my head. Disaster the word has never entered my scheme of things. It's just not what I think about in life. So we had insurance, but it didn't do the value of my things. I don't want to sound like a person who feels that things are important, but when you don't have them, then you realize how important those things really are, because many of our friends, well-meaning, and I'm not trying to criticize my friends or anything like that, but when you are going through that experience and they say such things, well, it's just stuff, don't worry about it, you can always get some more. I notice none of them are giving up theirs. So most people who are pack rats, if you ask them, there are many people, I bet if you went into your residence, there are things that you haven't touched in probably 10 years. But if somebody asked you to throw it away, you'd leave here kicking and screaming. You wouldn't be able to do it. Well, we had that, maybe they were not valuable to other people, but they're my possessions. It represented my life. It represented who I thought I was. Now I'm developing a new identity. I'm not even sure about what I like, and I'm having difficulty trying to figure out what kind of furniture I want, because I liked what I had so much. I had no intention ever of replacing it.
Now, you had also mentioned to me over the phone that you had operated your business out of the home.
Well, I was establishing one. Yeah, it was just getting started, and I haven't. That's disrupted. I haven't done that. I haven't done anything like that. I haven't gotten. I'm still trying to just figure out how to get furnishings.
So,
and clothes and things like that, and actually what to do. You have to figure out where to live. So we figured out we got that. Now, and we were extremely fortunate in getting this because it had furniture with it, which we can buy purchasing the place. But I'm not sure that I want it. It's doing fine. and it holds us, and it keeps us from feeling empty completely. Because when we were living at the apartment in Richmond, we went there with just the brass bed that we bought, that I had put in layaway. It was just kind of a thing I wanted, and we really didn't need it, so there was no hurry to have it. And fortunately, it was not involved in the fire. But it became a very central thing once we had nothing. So when we moved into that apartment, that was the only thing there. And we lived like that roughly for a year, because I said, well, I'm not planning to stay here, so I don't see the point of trying to buy furniture for it. I don't want to have to move anything from here. The bed is heavy enough. We bought the bare necessities, things that he thought he could not live without. I tried to do the kitchen somewhat, and he needed it there. Aside from that, the apartment in Richmond had nothing in it.
So, I want to talk about the apartment in Richmond, but what happened immediately afterwards? Like, the next day or that night? Where did you stay? The next day, what happened? How did you pick up the pieces?
When I got onto the freeway, I continued driving, and even though I was hearing this crackling of the fire and things exploding and the day getting darker, it started looking like black like this. I was thinking, as I was driving, I shouldn't be going, but there was nothing else. I couldn't think of anything else to do, so I continued going because I didn't want to stop. I didn't want to stay on that side. I'm not one to look at fire. So there was a fire. I realized there was a fire, but I had no idea it was going to do anything that it did. I just felt that with the firemen there, they'd stop it. That's what they're supposed to do. That's their job. So I kept hearing things explode, and cinders were all over the car. It was everywhere. And then I had friends I needed to meet in San Francisco that were waiting for me for the game. So I thought, well, I'll go tell them that there's this fire in Oakland, and maybe I should go back home and wait until I can get into my place to assess the damage. So I continued going to San Francisco. When I arrived in San Francisco, the cinders were all the way over there. People were leaving church, going to the game, and cinders were everywhere. They had beautiful white frocks on. They were looking at their clothes, brushing themselves off, and discovering that it was actually burning. And when we actually were in Candlestick Park, they had to turn the lights on. It was so dark. It was dark. It was like it was night. And gradually it cleared up. And people have TVs at the game, and I was looking at my place burn. It was actually my building, and I was watching it on TV. And I said, well, yeah, that's my building, but I know that's not my part. It's just that sign burning, for drama effect. And I left my seat, and I went to call a friend over here, and I managed gradually to reach a line, and he finally answered. And he said, yes, Barbara, your building has burned. I said, well, you mean the front part? He said, no, the whole building. I said, oh, you mean the part that you saw on TV where they were showing the sign? And he said, no, where you live is burned too. And I said, well, you're just talking about that sign part. And I said, okay. Then I hung up the phone. And I walked around a little bit, and I had to buy a shirt because I didn't have on anything really but this jacket and some slacks. And I bought a 49er shirt, and I went back, and I sat down, and I said, well, my friend said that part burned that we saw on TV, because I just dismissed the whole building idea. I just felt that, you could only see that part on television, so my side would be there when I got back. That was my thinking. That's what I felt. And I stayed for the game, but I'm not sure what I saw. I don't think I saw it because no one really saw the game. Everybody was focused on various little TVs that were talking about the fire, and people were saying, gee, there were so many people there from the side of the day whose homes were involved, and they also were at the game. And the disbelief was astonishing. So we all, I think, kind of sat and watched the game because we just knew that whatever they were saying on television did not apply to us. It applied to other people. That was my feeling. It wasn't me. My place didn't burn. Under the impression that when I got
How did you realize?
I came back when we finally, I was with these friends, and they really felt that I would be traumatized. I was not thinking anything because I was thinking that my part was right. So they wouldn't let me drive back. They drove back with me, and they wanted me to ride in their car, which I did. And they said, well, where do you think your husband will be? And I told them, and so I went right there, and yes, he was there. And this was an older couple who we visit quite a bit. My husband visits them far more than I do. And when I pulled up, what is the matter with you? Your house is burning down and you're over at a football game? So I said to him, I'm still thinking that, like he doesn't know what he's talking about. No one knows what they're talking about. So I said to him, what do you think I am? I couldn't, I'm not the fireman. I couldn't stop it. So the part is true. Like I may as well have been at the game. What could I have done? There's nothing I could have done. And I'm really happy that I didn't see that go up in flames like that, because looking at it, that would be entirely too devastating. I've never watched a fire take place anyway. I never watched anybody's possessions burn. I never watched that. I think there's nothing more horrible. So I would not ever have done it anyway. I wouldn't have done it under any condition. And I'm really happy that I didn't. It's just bad enough living with it as I am. I mean, to go to the game, and then, boom, he remembered. Because actually, he didn't know what was wrong with where I was. So somebody finally connected with him and said, well, you said prepare to go to the game. So then, he kind of figured out that, well, maybe she didn't do that, because, well, I did. And when we connected with each other, he said, well, we promised to take Pete to the airport. So we just went on with our life like it had not happened, even though he had seen it happen. I guess he just blacked it out too. So we had this friend that he had promised to take to the airport. We went out there to his house, picked him up, and took him to the airport. Then we went by our friends, and that's where we spent our night. This other friend, and other friends that said, oh, well, you can't stay with them. So we spent, out of the fire, we spent with our friends in San Leandro. The following day, Mrs. Faye Williams and her husband said, oh, no, you can't have a much larger house, and we would have a lot more privacy. So everybody stayed there a little longer than we had planned.
How long was
Well, from the day following
Probably
the
6
fire
weeks at
until
least.
the 11th of January. Of
Well,
November, all
maybe
of
7 weeks. Probably 7
No,
weeks.
that's all of November, all of December.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Because the fire was in October.
Mhm.
So really, about...
And
I
it was
guess
just as well.
Yeah.
See,
10
they didn't
weeks
want
at
us
least,
to
yeah.
leave because shortly after the fire, my husband had, like what I would describe as a heart attack. He didn't want to call it that.
No, it
He
wasn't
did-
a heart attack. I did not have a heart attack. I had chest pains. You know,
But he was hospitalized
and,
for
yeah,
over
day and a
24
half,
hours.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that, in January, he became ill again. He was hospitalized for a week. In February the 14th, which was Valentine's Day, he was ultrasound down.
Had surgery in February of '92, and so I'm okay now.
That's a lot.
Yeah, hey, believe you.
Well, I
I
wanted
can
to
kick
find. I wanted to find out how it was for you, because I assume you were watching the fire. Just what did you do that day while she was at the game? What were you
Unbelief. You really can't believe this is happening. And I watched it from close up until it got, heat got so intense I had to leave and go down Highway 24. And then I went to my friend's house. And then when Barbara got in with a couple she'd gone to the football game with, I went along with my two friends. We drove up Telegraph, San Pablo Avenue 1, and just watched the hill blazing, because even at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, the hill was still blazing on fire. And I think at that time it hit me that, if they don't control this thing, it's gonna spread over a lot of Oakland and Berkeley. So mostly disbelief, and not really believing that this place is burning, So that's what I was kind of caught up with.
What did you have with you when you left?
Well, I had a car. I too had come in. I'm a night supervisor at the San Mateo County Juvenile Hall, and this particular Saturday night I had worked because one of my coworkers had just recently engaged in a third marriage, and we were going out to have breakfast with him and with a couple other guys I work with. So we stopped in San Mateo to have breakfast, probably from 7:30 until about 8:30 and 9 o'clock that morning. I then drove to Castro Valley, where I shopped at Petrina's, bought about $300 worth of food, and proceeded to go home. Probably reached home about 10 to 10:30, and was waiting until my wife left so I could go to bed, disconnect the telephones, and sleep for a few hours, and then get up. But before that could happen, they were calling to all the residents to evacuate the building, and that's when I got out.
Wow.
Mm.
Since basically you had minimal insurance, how was it financially for you guys to, I don't know, was it difficult to get back on your feet to
I
buy
think
all
it still
this
is.
furniture?
I feel like
Yeah.
my life is completely disrupted. We're not doing the rebuilding of a home, but we're actually rebuilding a life. People that are rebuilding a home, I don't think have yet dealt with their emotions because they have all of that to do. We've had to jump in and deal with our emotions a lot sooner than living without, and that they're not valuable. And, I feel that they are. It's roughly 2 years after the fire, and I feel still out of place and disrupted. It's a lot better now since we've moved away from Richmond. We're in a place that is more to our liking and to our lifestyle, where we can start building. And that's what I've been doing. I've been working on figuring out what it is I like. Since I can't hook and try not to think about it, because I don't mention the fire to people anymore, because for the most part, for anyone that's not involved, that was such a long time ago. I mean, it's like, ooh, who could be thinking about that now? That's such a long time ago. It's when you are involved in it, it's not a long time ago. It's yesterday. When you look around, you discover that the earthquake was in 1989. Many people are still disrupted from that. We haven't even repaired freeways. So how do you think lives are going to be repaired? Houses are not yet built. They're working on it. That's what we're doing. We're working on it. I think that we did good as far as picking up. We're that kind of people. I feel that we're strong enough, or that we are strong, really strong. We kept going as though nothing had happened. There was a point at which I felt that we were wrong to do that, because something had happened, and we should recognize the fact that we're different. We're not the same people we were. We're strong people, and we kept going. I doubt if my husband shed any tears, but I've had many.
Well, for many reasons. I came from a very strong family, very strong mother. This is not the first time I was burned out. After college, and I went home. My mother passed 3 months before I came out of college. Our house had burned down. I was getting ready to go to Chicago from Mississippi at that time anyway. But I kind of look at this from that I keep saying I don't live in the past in terms of you have to pick yourself up and keep going. We were fortunate that I still had my income coming in. In addition to that, a lot of things had to be bought. That we had to do a lot of replacement, and then to have surgery for cancer too. I think out of that, it kind of made me a stronger person. I still miss all the earthly things we had, things that can be replaced, pictures. 4 years at the Jamaica Playboy Club, the traveling we had done, films and slides which can't be purchased. I don't seem to be able to get our wedding pictures because the photographer who made them apparently is not concerned about helping us get those pictures back. We've met all kind of adverse attitudes, but then there have been new experiences and new things which we've done since we've been burned out. And life just goes on. That's all, It has never stopped for me, and it's not going to stop.
How did you get to the Richmond apartment? How long were you there?
Through friends,
Yeah.
people. The night of the fire, which the fact that we had friends where we could live with, what's the name of where we lived, the people were up telling people they could move in these apartments then. It's a new development in Richmond Marina, and they were a lot of vacancies there. They were up telling people they could move in immediately. We moved in later mainly because some people that we knew, people who had been burned out, moved out there.
We didn't want to go that far out. I felt that was too far away from my community, from everything that was...
About a year. We were there from January 92 until June of 93.
And you only had a bed and a dining table.
And we got additional furniture.
No,
but,
we
you
had
know,
the bed.
the
we
bed
had
and
this,
the TV at
that
first,
you're
right.
sitting here. We had the bed,
And TV and all
table,
that stuff. In the
desk,
process of buying new things.
four,
You know.
those 4 lawn chairs that I used as
Mhm.
living room furniture. And we had that big black chair and a big TV. Because he wanted the big recliner chair.
You were the main one that didn't like yet.
Because I would have bought furniture, she didn't want to buy anything.
I didn't want to buy
And
anything
Richmond.
because I didn't know what I wanted. And we bought this table because he wanted it. We bought these chairs. I picked them out because we had to have something to go with the table.
Do you think it was easier for you because you had gone to
I've never experienced anything horrible.
Well,
in
I
my
think
life.
I'm, as I said, I'm a pretty strong person.
And I don't think I'm weak.
No, it's not the matter she's weak. And then, too, I'm kind of old-fashioned. I'm a little different from a lot of black folk. I'm a very strong United Methodist person. Not a fanatic religious person, but I think those things are very vital to me and make me a strong person.
And I feel like I'm a strong person. I feel it was a disaster, and I feel it should be coped with like a death. And that is the way I'm handling it, as though it were a death.
I think another thing, too, that, if you can, my philosophy has always been that if you can survive, if you are knocked down, and if you can get up, then you ought to be a stronger person. And after cancer surgery and being burned out and so forth, it makes me a stronger person. What has been and what was yesterday, it's not today and won't be tomorrow. So that's my philosophy.
That's what I mean about us being different people, because we are, not that we were ever weak, but we're stronger. Both of us are. We're strong people anyway. But we're stronger because nothing phases me now. Absolutely nothing. It's almost as though I don't have any emotions, but I know I do.
Well, I
But,
keep telling myself, suppose I'd be dead now. I'm alive. I look for new things each day. And, I'm just happy to be alive. Suppose I had been one of those 25 persons who would be planted in the ground now. Okay? Those are the people who, well, they're not people now. I guess it's a body, you might say. But people who are alive, survive the fire, all of this stuff you can get again. It may not be the same stuff, but you can get perhaps even better things. So just, that's just my philosophy.
We're getting things that, to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Many people look at us and think, oh, you're doing fantastic. Oh, the fire was really good to you. I don't like that kind of statement.
Well, we
because-
can't keep people from making
No,
comments.
I'm not saying that I'm trying to keep them. It doesn't, I think they mean well. I just don't think they're realizing what they're saying.
They haven't been through it.
Yeah.
You must walk a mile in a person's moccasins, as they say, to realize what it would have been through with. But many people have empathy for you, try to feel for you, and that's the best some people can do. And I accept that. I can't understand the feeling of some of my friends who have had prostate cancer, strokes, and all of this kind of stuff. I can only have empathy for them because I haven't been through that, So consequently, you can never feel the depth of any of this stuff unless you've gone through it. And people haven't gone through it. If they wish me well, I don't require anything else from them.
Did you ever how soon after the fire or middle of it, up and see the building at all, IW? And
We go frequently.
Are they rebuilding it or?
I noticed
No, not
this
yet.
morning that they're up there doing things this morning. They were.
They are.
Yeah. I go frequently.
And how do you feel? I mean, has it changed from 2 years ago, or
Yes, it's easier to look at.
how was it the first time you saw it?
The first time we went back, which was roughly, I don't know, 2, 3 days, did they let us go back?
I always looked at it from a distance from the freeway. I went up many times, even when they had,
No, I'm
The
talking about when we
security
went,
guard.
when we went back and it was still smoldering.
you know.
I think.
Oh, I went up there and looked at it, you know.
Well, then when we went on the tour, when we had to go with a police person,
Yeah.
that's when I realized that everything was gone. Up until that time, I was still under the the illusion that my part was partially standing or still standing, or that I'd find that it would be okay. And I think it was rough. I know Jim, my husband knew that it was gone, and he didn't
Oh,
want to
yeah.
go back. And
No, I went back. I did go back.
I know, but you
yeah.
kept. I had not seen it collapse, so I didn't realize.
I didn't
it
have the
was
emotional
totally
stuff
to the ground.
of many of the people that we were in a group of totally emotional, devastated young folk,
White.
you know, yeah, who parents who saw this as the end of the rope, the end of their life. I never can get this stuff back again. And these were people who many had been educated at UC Berkeley, you know, if they're saying anything worthwhile.
They were
and,
also
which-
educated back east. They're not
Yes,
all
and
used,
some were
all used
educated
to
men.
people.
But when I looked at that place, I said, thank God I got out of there alive, you know. And now this may be old-fashioned, not in anybody's mold or trend, but I said, thank God I got out of that place alive, because it could have been different for me, you know. And that was my reaction, you know.
Were there any other African Americans in the building? Like what percentage?
In our building, on
Yeah.
our floor, yes.
One fella that lived on the third floor of us that we knew, not a lot, you know. There were 88, at full capacity, there were 88 units in the building. There were 14, the last time I checked, there were about 14 vacancies. But there was a black guy, was an engineer, lived in the building. It must have been 10 African Americans that lived there, you know.
In that particular building.
But it was a place where African Americans, whoever they are, it was not a place where I think there were a lot of business and professional people. It was not a place where people had time to sit around and gossip and slap people on the back and cook ribs and this sort of thing. It was not that kind of complex. I think we all were busy people, students, professors, and you name it. So it was a place where you kind of did your own thing.
For the most part, everyone would come and go. Generally, the only time you'd see a lot of people, and really it wasn't a lot, would be on the weekend and maybe a holiday, because many people went away for the holiday.
I guess I was trying to, I was trying to get at in a very circuitous way. If there was a sense of neighborhood or neighborliness or that you missed building, you know.
Not a lot. I think it was a hello and chatting with people now and then, and I perhaps chatted with a lot of people
I
around there
think
and
you
so
chatted with more
forth.
people.
But my lifestyle is that whereas I believe in community and all this sort of thing too, but I have my own friends. It was not a place where I wanted to go next door and borrow some salt or pepper and this sort of thing. We said hello, and and
we were
chatted, and that
friendly.
was about
It
it.
was a friendly building,
Yeah.
but
We all
there
did
was a
our
lot
own
of
thing.
industry involved. We
Yeah.
were all very busy.
We're all busy, yeah.
all very busy. We all left early. Many people left early, and many people came back late. So you don't have the opportunity under those conditions to do a lot of visiting with your neighbors, because we're busy people.
You know, trying to survive, trying to make a living, you know.
Now you were mentioning about the meetings that you go to. Is this the meetings with people in the building?
Parkwood, yes.
Well,
We went to
I'm not
2
sure which one you
meetings, actually.
refer to, but not immediately, but shortly after the fire, we joined a fire therapy group, which I did because I felt that my husband wasn't talking enough about his feelings about the fire. And with the cancer thing coming up and the hospitalizations coming up, I just felt that something was going on the inside that wasn't being expressed. And I do think the fire therapy group helped him, although he'll be very critical of it, but it got him talking anyway, and even if he didn't talk about the way he
Oh, he was
felt,
talking,
he was
yeah.
talking
Mhm.
indirectly about the way he felt. So it was very helpful. I noticed a change. I thought it was good. The other group we're talking about is the Parkwoods group, which is all of us that were in the 6-building complex. There's 6 buildings involved, and everybody there we meet from time to time now. Many people are not coming anymore, but the whole purpose of that, they don't necessarily need to show up, but the main purpose, the main thrust is because we feel that we should be compensated in some way, that we feel certain things should have happened that didn't happen. So that's the main thrust of that particular meeting. It's good to get together with people to see how everybody's doing. We're all at about the same level. Some people are doing better. Others. I think it probably went better than anything that was ever a disaster because of the people involved. The people
But I
involved.
have strong.
The people involved, for the most part, were Oakland's or the East Bay's criminal crop, you may as well say. And where it's located, because of that, things were developed and instituted that have never been done before. And I think it helped people get on their feet a lot faster. It made it easier on us. There was help, and I think the only reason for that was because of the people involved in that fire. If it hadn't been for Oakland's cream of the crop and primarily all of those earthquake people, it was the thing, those burned, the flat lands of the quake, they fall.
But I think this time they were more prepared for it. We had one group, the Cooperation of Churches in this Bay Area was fanatic, you know.
It was phenomenal. It was good.
Fantastic, I'm sorry, the word is fantastic. It was a consortium of churches that gave money, which in turn gave fire victims money, a month's rent, people without insurance, they helped clothing and food and this sort of stuff. The Salvation Army gave a lot of money. The one that we really didn't, that I have no respect for is FEMA, the federal agency, okay. This really wasn't worth a damn, really, the way I feel about it. I think they gave us $775 supposedly for rent money. I first saw on TV where you get it that they would pay rent for you up to 4 months. We got $775, which did not pay 1 month's rent. And then we got more paperwork saying that keep receipts and so forth because they may audit you, you know. But the churches, the Salvation Army, you know, were the people who were there, you know, and who provided financial assistance. You know, those are the groups who really, you know, need to get the praise for what went on. You know, beautiful black woman who headed that, Janice last name. You know. Beautiful
Janice,
black woman who.
Just a second.
Janice Long. Yes, Janice Long.
Janice Long. Higher Interfaith Recovery Effort.
Right. That was the group. And anytime people say churches don't do something for people, you know, they were the real core of helping people in that effort.
Do you think that African Americans
are cut? It was just another, okay, we can handle this attitude about.
I think probably reflected what happens in society to a certain extent. And then on the other hand, I'm not sure African Americans to a certain extent may have benefited from the church group and so forth. I think they were there now. The other agencies, and I don't know how the other agencies can tell whether you're Afro-American or not.
When they see you. When they look at you.
Well, we didn't meet anybody from FEMA, I don't think. You had a
Yes.
number, We met somebody from FEMA?
Yeah, the guy, that when we took our paperwork down,
Hmm.
when we went down by Jack London Square.
Well,
that was
yeah,
FEMA.
okay. Well, also, they made a $20,000 CETA loan available to you. I'm glad we didn't go for that.
A
SBA
$20,000
loan,
what?
$20,000 SBA loan
Oh, okay.
to buy furniture and stuff like that. And I'm glad we didn't get involved in that because we would have to pay it back. And we survived without that. I thought, well, this is great, borrow $20,000, but it was something we really didn't want to do because it would have been restricted to buying furniture and stuff like that, and that would have been a bill for us that we didn't need.
How has it been just in general over the past 2 years financially?
Probably didn't feel a lot because we were in a state of denial, and essentially we were numb. I think the entire time that we were with our friends, which is probably why they wanted us to stay there, we were in a state of denial. So basically what we did was, I felt like I was a hunter-gatherer. I just tried to get clothes because that was, I felt, the first thing we had to do. You had to get clothes before you could go out and start doing other things. And so I did shopping for clothes for the two of us primarily. And then when I felt we, had enough changes, 5 or 6 days, I kind of just walked around and had lunch, and we had documentation we had to prepare and meetings to attend and things like that. So staying with our friends was good for that. We were it was not until I think we moved on our own in January where we had to really face the music and start dealing with the idea that we really had nothing. And that was very hard for me because walking into a totally empty everything and not having everything that I'm accustomed to, it's hard. And my husband likes to entertain a lot. He just went on as though we had all these things to use, and so I had to run around